Hello world, my name is Data Mining Mike, and in this episode of the podcast, we are going to cover how to start or grow a traditional newspaper business. Today's guest is Val Mohney. He is the owner and editor of the Huckleberry Press. For the last 8 years, Val has helped tell the stories of small businesses and the people that live in Northeast Washington. The Huckleberry Press is a regional newspaper that makes an impact in the community by connecting readers with the neighbors and the businesses that support them. It covers 13 counties and over 70 cities in Washington state with over 24,000 eager readers. Be sure to check out all the links to the Huckleberry Press in the video description below. Be sure to leave any questions in the comments below. Please like this video, subscribe, remember that sharing is caring, and smash that bell for more data-driven updates. Cool. Val Mohney, everybody.
Yeah, you got my name right.
Yay, Val Mohney. All right, tell the world about you. Tell the world about the Huckleberry Press.
So the Huckleberry Press was started 21 years ago by a little lady that lived in the shadow of the Huckleberry Mountains. This is where we got the name Huckleberry Press. And she started with a flyer. She sold ads for the paper before there was even a paper. And she went out, talked to people, sold ads, then got the paper going, and it grew from there. And then I met her going on 10 years ago in another business that I was a part of, and her husband had medical issues that would take them out of town. And at one point they needed to go out of town, and I said, if you like, I can run the paper for you for a couple weeks. And I didn't think much about it, but she came back and she said, how would you like to buy the paper? And at the time, it wasn't any big inspiration. I just needed a job. And I thought it would be a 30-hour a week or so, like, part-time job running this little paper. And it turned out that I was being completely naive, and running a newspaper takes a lot more than 30 hours a week. I also found out that people like the paper more than I assumed, because I thought it was just a little, like, paper that sits on a rack and you see it and maybe you pick it up. But it turns out that we have 22,300 super loyal readers, and if the paper is not delivered to a particular location for some reason, they'll start calling, wanting to know where the paper is. When we drop the papers off, often there are people standing there waiting for the paper to get dropped off. For being a little country paper, it's kind of it's got a loyal readership.
Okay, so how many pages is it usually?
It's usually 16 pages. I could really be 20 pages right now, but it's 16.
Okay. So since you first got started, talk about your printing press.
Well, it's printed by a company owned by the Spokane Review.
Oh, okay.
So I have it printed on Barker Road in Spokane Valley. And then my drivers go to that print shop and pick it up and deliver it from there. And I live in an old Grange Hall north of Davenport. And they bring the papers out to us in Davenport, and then we distribute from there too.
Okay. All right. So, of that, I've seen it at the VA hospital. So, talk about your distribution route. How does that usually work out? So, you got your paper picker-uppers. Yep. They go and they get them, and they disseminate it on the route. So, what is your coverage area?
We go to 13 counties and well over 300 stops. Distribution is a non-exact science. It is always changing for some reason. So people often ask me, like, where do you deliver? And and I'll be like, well, I have a rough idea. Partly because I don't deliver the paper myself anymore, and partly because it's always changing. But the lion's share of our distribution is in and around Spokane, and then we distribute to the outlying areas all the way to the Canadian border.
Okay. All right. So how do you go about getting what are your topics? What is your content creation process?
The slightly extended answer to that is, for the first 7 years or so of the Huckleberry Press, my experience with Huckleberry Press, I was trying to make money because it's a business, and when you have a business, you make money, right? So I thought that the whole situation was about making money. And then a couple years ago, through a series of conversations and coaching, I really got that what it's about is making a difference. And so I really started looking at how we make a difference, how we make a difference with our advertisers, how we make a difference in the community, and then in particular where content is concerned, we started doing all the stories about people who make a difference in the local community. So nonprofits, small business people, just people who are doing things that make a difference. And when we shifted our focus to people that make a difference in the local community and started telling those stories pretty much exclusively, that's when the business started taking off and actually making money. So now I just don't worry about making money, and I just focus on that. How are we going to make a difference by telling those stories?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. That's growing your network.
It's the words making a difference are a little bit cliche and oversimple, but it turns out that's exactly what it is. I guess I could use the word strictly about focusing on that which makes a difference. And to put it in a slightly larger context, if you want to get irritated by what the Republicans are doing or what the Democrats are doing or what somebody else is doing, there's lots of resource for going and getting yourself irritated politically. We stay away from all that and let other people take up that mantle. We're just wanting to tell the positive stories of people that make a difference, lifting people up that maybe don't get lifted up otherwise. And in particular, I love to tell the stories of common people that are making a difference. Mostly, if you're in the news, you're extraordinary in one way or another, which is valid. But I especially like to tell the story of people that are just doing their thing, and they're not necessarily extraordinary, but they're doing something extraordinary. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I've seen some of the stuff that you've produced, and that's really cool. Like the people with their businesses that they create these crafts that can add value. And it seems like you're talking about adding value. So you're saying the Huckleberry Press is about adding value to people's businesses and letting people be exposed to the media that didn't get that chance as the more outlying people do.
In the ideal sense, I would like to think so. One of my favorite stories we did recently is a guy named Aaron Reese. And Aaron Reese is an extraordinary person, but in common language, he's just a guy who stood on a street corner in Spokane for a year holding yellow hand-painted signs with positive messages. So everyone would drive by. He'd be waving his sign around, giving them a Shaka Khan and a high five and whatever. And all he was trying to do was inject some positivity into, like you're driving on a Monday to work. You don't want to be driving to work. You're kind of bummed out, but then you drive by somebody who's trying to be cheerful, who is being cheerful, and holding up a sign with a positive message. And he got all kinds of positive feedback for that. Anyway, he was the most colorful photo shoot we've done in a long, long time. He's got one of the best stories, and I love it because he's adding color where none was before.
Yeah, I think I've seen that guy. And I've seen him on more than one occasion. And it is good because he gives people... because I remember you first see him and you think he's a homeless guy begging for money or something.
Yeah.
But he's just like, smile, be positive. He's been doing this for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, good for you. So how'd you manage to get a hold of him? Did you just cold approach him? Did you see him drive? Were you just driving, you saw him, you just pulled over like, hey?
I don't know the answer to that question, but ultimately I looked him up on Facebook and there was a beautiful photo of him holding one of his signs, and I thought, we just got to talk to this guy. So I sent him a Facebook message, and it happened that way.
How do you find him on Facebook? You just see a picture of him and you're like, cool, and click, and then leads to his profile somehow. Because I know you got like people working for you too. You said you have an editor.
Well, I have... Okay, so the first answer to that question is a lot of stuff floats by me on Facebook, and I'll note it and open it up in another window or whatever. And depending what the situation is, I'll send a message, tell them who I am and what I'm about and why I'm doing it, and hopefully they will respond. And usually when people hear that some version of, we think you're exceptional and would like to tell your story, they tend to respond well to that. And then on another level, I have, I guess you could say, a network of people that always or often... Let me start over. I have a network of people who often send me ideas. Like I'll get an email in my inbox that says, hey, I think you should talk to so-and-so and this is why. Or they send me a Facebook message, or they text me, or, I've got feelers out there. And for the last 2 years, all I've been talking about is how we want to tell the stories about people making a difference. So I think, or I like to think, that there's kind of a listening in the community now.
Mm-hmm.
So when people come across stuff like that, they tell me. People never bring me controversy anymore. When I first bought the Huckleberry Press, all the time I'd get notices like, why don't you tell this story about this awful thing happening over here? And I never did. But for whatever reason, I don't get those leads anymore. People just don't send them to me.
Yeah. Okay, so why do you think that would be the case?
I think partly lack of response, partly if you have picked up going all the way back, when I bought the Huckleberry Press, it was a very political publication in a particular direction. And it had conspiracy theories and things in it that I just couldn't abide. So with the very first issue, we went neutral.
Okay.
That was my whole mission, was to go neutral. And at that point, we had stories about the backcountry horsemen, or things going on in Colville, or just a random assortment of stuff for several years. Not really focused. But never anything like negative or political, for sure. And then the last couple of years, it's been all about people making a difference. So I think people just kind of got the idea, like, what to listen for.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so yeah, and it does seem to have some distribution. Have you... So one thing I noticed when I'll go to someplace, I'll see the Nickle.
The Nickle Nick.
Yeah, and I'll see the Inlander.
And the Spokane Exchange.
Yep, Spokane Exchange, and then there's the Huckleberry Press. Is there one more I'm missing?
It depends where you are. In Spokane, I don't think so. But out in the outlying areas, there are others.
Okay.
Some of them went away in the pandemic.
All right. So there's, of those ones, when I open the Nickle, then I open the Spokane Exchange. a third of their pages. No, I'm sorry, 2/3 of their pages are puppies.
Yeah, classified ads.
So,
That's what they really exist for. If you look at the Huckleberry Press, we are certainly full of display ads. Like, it's ad heavy. On the front page at the moment, it's all display ads, but we're moving towards content on the front page so people can get the idea that there's actually content inside. But what separates us from what I think separates us from these other publications is that every issue we have at least 2 or 3 or 4 or more, depending on advertising, stories about local people. And we go through the whole process of identifying a story, getting a writer for the story, sending a photographer to the story. Now we're doing video, so we are adding video element to the storytelling that we're doing. So we have a whole content piece that a lot of these other publications don't.
okay. So you feel that you're providing a level of journalism that others are not getting exposed to?
Technically, yes. I have no journalism background whatsoever, so whenever someone says journalism, I tend to be like, well, I don't know. But I think in the common use of the word, we certainly have journalism in the paper.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So where do you see the vision for the Huckleberry Press?
I want to be a multi-million-dollar multimedia agency.
Okay.
And I want to give a lot of people an opportunity to do meaningful work and be well paid for that. So I have a lot of growth left to do.
Mm-hmm.
And distributing more papers is a part of that. Like I would like it. For now, I'm not looking to expand our region. I would just like to distribute more papers inside of the region we already have and inundate the area. Separately from that, I want to grow a lot more online and do a lot more video work and create more influence, to use a word, online. And we just got a new website. We're doing more videos on our YouTube channel. I dabbled in TikTok for a while, but it was mostly just me talking, and I feel like I need a new angle on that. So anyway, growing our online presence one way or another.
Good. Yeah, absolutely. So do you got a little 2-year plan? So what do you foresee in the 2 years? Like how much growth, and how do you measure growth or success?
That's a great question. Having said what I said about formally running the business based on money, that money is still one of my metrics for measuring finance and success, like the degree of people that are taking out ads in the paper. So, and to be honest, without that, I would have nothing. So I have to keep an eye on that.
Yeah.
I don't have a really fixed answer for a 2-year plan beyond. Historically, the paper has been focused on the outlying areas around Spokane.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm focused more in and around Spokane for generating the stories that we have, for the advertisers, and then personally networking. Like I'm spending a lot more time in Spokane the last few months, going to networking events, getting to know people, developing relationships, and that's the best possible use of my time, is getting to know people and developing partnerships with other businesses, other organizations. You and I were talking about influence earlier, so I got that stuck in my mind. I definitely want to increase my influence on a personal level, personally networking in Spokane. So I'm kind of just putting all my energy into that right now and not thinking so much about the future, if that makes any sense.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I just know I need to know more people. And just to say it another way, I am the Huckleberry Press. Like, I don't design ads so much anymore, but I'm getting the content, I'm managing the design of ads, I'm laying out the paper, I'm doing the billing and invoicing, I'm doing the bookkeeping, I'm doing the social media, I'm doing every last thing that there is to do for the paper, all of which could be done much better by somebody else. So I'm just going out to network and be around people with the idea that sooner or later I'll get myself replaced so that I can be 100% out in the community shaking hands and kissing babies.
Yeah, absolutely. So, this is something I've noticed because I can't find it on Craigslist. But are you allowed to advertise dog breeding?
I don't know the rules on that, and perhaps I should. Over the course of years, I've only really had a couple of breeders in the paper, and I know that the other papers have more breeders than we do.
No, I feel like that's like an untapped market.
Well, what I know about the dog breeders that we've had is that they have a really good reputation, so I always felt comfortable with it.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, I don't love the puppy mill situation, and I don't really want to be a part of that so much.
Gotcha.
But the dog ads that we do have in the paper tend to be people that just like, like people have a puppy once in a while, and then they gotta get, or puppies. Let me start over. People have puppies by accident, and then they gotta do something about it. It's like random people that we end up having in the paper.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. But to say it another way, dogs definitely sell the paper. And whenever I can, I try to have the puppy ads on the front of the paper because people will pick up the paper just to dog sell.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So that's a good point. So are you open to independent journalists? How many, or I guess I should say, how many stories are you going for per episode or per subscription?
Per issue?
Per issue.
I try to have 4 to 5 stories lined up every issue. And this issue, I think I had 3 stories, but we sold a bunch more ads, and I had to run the ads, so it's extra heavy on ads. But I try to have 4 or 5 stories lined up per issue, and I've got a handful of writers. They don't get paid very well, but they are all excellent, and I like to think we're giving them a little bit of experience and exposure.
Good, because I could definitely throw some writers your way if you wanted to.
The more writers, the better.
Yeah. So as far as how many pages is your current episode or issue?
16.
16 pages. Do you want to expand the number of pages?
Yes.
Okay, so that's a good metric. That's a metric you're going for as well.
That's another metric. So you have to expand or shrink the paper in 4-page increments.
Okay.
So the next level would be 20 pages, 24, 28. Where I want to be is 32 pages, which I cannot personally handle producing 32 pages, but I assume by that point I'll have a team and it won't be all on me.
Yeah. Okay. So is that because of printing the printing procedure that they have where you get it printed? They only go by certain increments of 4?
Well, the paper itself is built on I guess you could say, single sheet of paper.
Mm-hmm.
And what actually makes a paper is when you fold that sheet in half. So that's why it has to be in 4-page increments.
Oh, duh.
Yeah.
Of course. Yeah, of course. Okay, well that makes sense. So, but page metrics, page growth is what you want to increase. All right. So, and you're doing that just by networking, and you're doing a great job of going out and doing video podcasts like this and interviewing great people in the community. So is there anything else you wanted to mention?
I think I'd like to give a nod to the video aspect because, like I said, it's all me doing everything, and what do I know? I'm just doing the best I can with, doing this podcast, you've got really great microphones and a setup, and I'm doing everything with baling wire and duct tape, basically. But people, well, let me say this. I don't have a huge online following when it comes to video by any means, but people are noticing in person. So when I go out in public and network, let's say, people are approaching me and saying, I love what you're doing and I want to participate, and you can interview this person or that person. So now in my email box right now, I've got 3 or 4 emails from people that want to be on our little video podcast that we're doing, and I need to respond to them. And that whole video aspect it's nothing compared to what you got going on, but it's starting to take on a life of its own, which I'm excited about.
Yeah, that is exciting. It gets me excited too.
Yeah.
And I like seeing how you're doing it, and I'm really interested to see how it's going to grow in the future, and how the Huckleberry Press is going to slowly overtake the printed market, the printed industry within Spokane.
It's a cute little name, Huckleberry Press.
Hey, yeah, it is. It's catchy. It is a cute name.
It's cute. I don't know that the name lends itself naturally to being a big monolithic brand, but I'm here to push it as far as it can go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So on that point, how can people get a hold of you?
HuckleberryPress.com.
HuckleberryPress.com. What about on social medias?
Huckleberry Press.
Huckleberry Press at YouTube.
YouTube is literally at Huckleberry Press. Facebook is the Huckleberry Press. Twitter, Huckleberry Press. Instagram, Huckleberry Press. Everywhere, Huckleberry Press.
Okay. So you've done a really good job of just capitalizing that keyword. So Huckleberry Press Spokane, if you look it up on Google, be sure to give them a 5-star rating on the Google business profile. Be sure to like, subscribe, and smash that bell for more data-driven updates and all updates on the Huckleberry Press. He's done a really good job. Val has done an amazing job of not being political and not taking political sides. But if you have a business or a service or know somebody that could really benefit from the Huckleberry Press in some sort of way, just know that Val has an outstanding network and a lot of reach. If there's one company and one paper outfit in Spokane that you should put your time and investment in, it's the Huckleberry Press. All right, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this production as much as I enjoyed interviewing our great guest, Val. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Cool, man. You did a good job.